Welcome back to another exciting episode of me, Joseph Ketchapalia, talking about my shipping container home I'm trying to build. Um, last time I mentioned that I was going to have some renderings. I sort of got there. We have a couple of pictures I'm going to share with you. Um, this is the shipping container home that I'm planning to build to use as a short-term rental. So I'll mention a couple of there's for that reason. There's a few things that I'm asked to have changed that might not make perfect sense. This picture that we're looking at, I said maybe because there's going to be a little bit of some tweaking that goes on to these. This picture is actually shot from the back of the proposed home. Uh, Number of things on here are going to change. First of all, it looks like siding. We're actually going to try to use the exterior of the shipping containers. I think it would be horrible to use some containers and have that Core 10 steel and then cover it with siding. I know some people do that, and some parts of this will have to be sided. This middle section is not going to be a container, and so that will obviously be siding. But maybe we're going to be able to recapture some of the steel that we cut out on the sides and use that, but we'll have to see. This is a shot looking down, so checking out the floor plan. To give you a little idea of the orientation, this red squiggly line, this is basically where the road's going to be. And so this door here, probably going to be either a big glass slider or one of the things we've talked about is having it be a glass garage door. It's going to be the main entrance, and so that's one of the reasons the garage door might be problematic, because you don't want to have to open and close that every time to get inside. Um, at the moment, this was just wasted space. So one of the things that we're going to do, I think I told you last time, have a little bit of budgetary constraints. I had originally planned on doing a tiny home, and so um, this is already beyond the scope of what I had planned on doing. And so one of the things we're trying to do is create some unfinished space within the containers. I'm going to use as decking. But I think this initial plan, you doing this whole room, was a little overboard. So we're going to move that wall out, remove this deck, and then create a deck within the footprint of the container. So we'll basically cut out walls. This will still be covered. Um, and then I think I mentioned last time we're going to do a cargo net, and that's what I still want to do here is actually just stretched between the two sets of containers. I don't know if you've seen these online. Sometimes they're called just a giant hammock. Sometimes they're a cargo net lounge. But just, really just a net stretched between the two, suspended off the ground, because this whole thing is going to be off the ground a little bit, um, just because of the topography and the type of foundation we're using. And so that'll just be, uh, it's a low cost way to create a pretty unique space. And because this is the road on this side, back here you'll just be facing the back of the lot. And the way this is designed, your really view, you won't even see your neighbors. It'll be pretty nice private spot. I think it'll be pretty cool for people want that, or just there on vacation. One of the things this plan is missing, I'm going to add a bath. Well, actually, we're going to add a half bath. Uh, this is going to be a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath. And I know that seems, when I'm telling you the budget's an issue, it seems maybe a little crazy to want to go backwards and add in a half bath to the plans that I already have. One of the things, and I'm going to talk about finding land for short-term rentals in the future, but one of the things that I've done a lot of analysis on is the difference in income versus a 3.2 and a 3.2.5 in this location. And I use a tool called AirDNA for that. I'm definitely going to do a video on using AirDNA, how we compare different things. But I know it seems funny that adding a half bath would increase, it makes it easier to put 8 guests in there. And although we just have 3 bedrooms, we'll also put a sleeper sofa. Uh, it's so yeah, we're gonna do that here. This room is going to get a little bit bigger, and so I think that shouldn't make this too closed off. I actually already talked to the architect. He thought that would work. I guess one version of his plans had it in there, and he just hadn't realized that was as big a deal as it is to me. On the income side, looking at the projections, having a 3.2 versus a 3.2.5 is almost $5,000 a year difference in projected revenue on AirDNA. And I do know a lot of people that use these, go on Airbnb or vrbo that are, very sensitive to the number of bathrooms. If you're going to have 8 guests, having 2.5 bathrooms is a lot different than just having two. And for that reason, I think we need to squeeze it in there and make it work. And it is going to put a little additional strain on my budget, um, which is another video I plan to make and really going over the budget for this. Because I think that's one of the things and a lot of people are curious about. Am I really saving that much money by doing shipping containers? Um, so yeah, like we talked about, moving that interior wall, creating a deck inside the space, getting rid of the other deck, putting that hammock there, and then adding a half bath. And that's the only real changes, or those are the only real changes I'm planning on. A couple other things I just wanted to share. These are some of the elevation renderings that he had provided. So this is basically looking at the front of the home. The double doors on this side, this is actually in one of the bedrooms. And this opening here is where not completely sure what we're going to put there. It's either going to be a big glass garage door, maybe a slider, maybe just French doors. Um, Part of that, one of the things I'm doing a lot of is trying to find reclaimed materials for this build. And so part of it's going to, be determined by what can I find that's cool, that looks good in that space, but is also affordable. So this is the front. This is the right side, and so this is a wider look at that opening that we were just talking about. And then on the back side, you can see the two double doors here. Those will actually go away if we turn this back into a deck space. And so those glass double doors will move in to this new interior wall we're creating. Um, I think that'll work. I mean, obviously, it's the reason I have professionals actually designing it is because I don't really know. But when I went over these plans um, with my builder today, we came up with some of these ideas with the budget in mind, and also just thinking about what we can do with the space. Just having that big square room, we just don't really need it. And to make the great room a little bigger and then carve out a deck onto here, I think makes a whole lot of sense. So that's down the right side of the building. This is the rear, and we saw that colored version. But again, I think we'll get rid of this deck. You will have these double doors from this bedroom, but then over here, again, these are the ones that are going to be moved in. And so from here to here is just where I plan to have a giant hammock that you can just hang out on, or a cargo net lounge space. And then this is the left side of the building, and I think this is interesting and it's smart. There's just the one window on this side. You do have to have that window because it's egress for the one middle bedroom. Um, Otherwise, we don't really want to have views of this side because we're positioning this building right on the left side of the property, and it's close to the neighbor, and so we don't necessarily want to have a lot of views of the neighbor's house and yard. And so all of the windows and openings here are pointing either backwards, where there's a lot of nice trees and a green space. There's a green belt behind this property, or to the right side of the property or to the road, where there's going to be a lot more space between the building and the neighbor. Um, so that's what, when I first looked at these, I was wondering, well, why we only get one window on that side. But when I looked at the site plan, it makes a whole lot of sense. I think it was pretty smart design on the part of the architect. And so that's really all I wanted to go over today. As I mentioned, I'm going to make a video on finding land for container homes. It's actually pretty challenging depending on if you're in an area with deed restrictions, depending on what your zoning's like. Uh, and also just having, finding a spot that really works for it. You don't want to just be completely clashing with the neighborhood. You don't want to have an HOA maybe that is going to control what you look like a little bit and those sorts of things. But that's going to be another video. Like I said, I'm going to do one on budget as well. And even though I'm doing this container home project right now, I am still moving forward with a tiny house in another location, or I'm trying to, in the process of negotiating that lot right now. And so I think that's going to be another interesting project. And so I'll try to do the same thing, share the renderings, share the plans, and then as construction goes on, going to try to get out to the site as much as possible and give you some views of that. But all of that stuff, you're just going to have to wait until another time. But I think that's basically everything I want to share with you today. Oh, I'm supposed to say like and subscribe, hit the little bell button. If you have comments, it would be fantastic if you shared those. You can notice probably my wife commented on that first one. That's completely legitimate. She's a YouTube viewer. But I would like some other comments. And if anyone has advice for me, more than welcome. But until next time. Oh, and I'm going to have that same problem with shutting this off. I think I figured it out this time.